Dirt Tracks is sponsored by Polaris, think outside. Can-Am, time for some off-road living. And by Yamaha, revs your heart.
CFMOTO is a company that's been burning the midnight oil to deliver an ever-expanding product line of ATVs and side-by-sides, and for 2024, they have so much more product than they've ever had before. On the Canadian side of the border, CFMOTO enlisted the help of NHL star Carey Price to badge their UFORCE 600 with his signature and jersey number, as well as a bunch of included upgrades right from the factory, such as a fully enclosed cab with hard doors, a high-mount snorkel, rock sliders, and upgraded front and rear bumpers. This is on top of the included 3,500-pound winch, 12-inch aluminum rims, and power steering. Quite a nicely equipped side-by-side and available in 3 different colors. Now, we also had the opportunity to ride some new models as well as talk to a representative from CFMOTO in the USA and find out just exactly what's happening and where they're growing.
Yeah, so when I started, we had approximately 300 dealers. We're currently over 600. We've pretty much prided ourselves on being very easy to do business with, and that formula has worked very well. We've basically let the dealer order what they want when they want. We had obviously a real nice gain during COVID, as a lot of OEMs did. However, we were a little luckier in the fact that we were fully up and running when some of the other manufacturers weren't. But in the future, you'll see more processes, a little more structure to how we approach our dealer base. And in the next 2 years, I think we're going to be positioned very well for continued growth.
Now, with the expansion of CFMOTO, their hallmark of more products, more included upgrades at a better price is not going to go anywhere, because that really resonates with their buyers.
Well, that's our secret sauce, really. I mean, we're giving you, the winch, the paint, the rims, everything that you get on a premium unit at a base unit price. And we're also not compromising on the margins that our dealers are getting. Between the margins and all of that we're offering, we know that in all of our research, it's price value and it's our design that are the first 2 things on the list that customers appreciate. And we'll just keep punching that card as much as we can because it's absolutely working.
Now, CFMOTO is working really hard to be a big player in the off-road category in North America and not just be viewed as a Chinese manufacturer alone.
There's a connotation, with manufacturers from China, that the quality isn't there, there's no dealer base, that kind of thing. Our quality is one of the things we watch super closely. We have an expansive dealer network. We have full parts and accessories in the US, and we're starting to manufacture in Mexico to get our shipping costs down.
Speaking with Reed, their product development manager, we were really able to gain insight as to where CFMOTO is going in 2024.
The biggest addition to our lineup for model year 2024 is the Z-Force 950 Sport 4-seater. Based on our 2-seat Z-Force that we launched last year, stretched to include 4 seats. It's got the 950 cc V-twin. A couple additions to the rest of the Z-Force lineup will be a parking brake, new for 24, and then on the sport models, we're getting upgraded shocks, larger diameter to handle the bigger bumps. The best thing about the 4-seater is the second row seats. I guess more people that you can bring along for the ride, the more fun you're going to have. Along with the features that CFMOTO is known for, with the standard winch, roof, and cargo box cover.
Now, the 4-seater is a huge step forwards for CFMOTO, and we love the ride, the handling, and the quality of this side-by-side, but it wouldn't be right if we didn't ask them if there was maybe a bit more horsepower coming in the future.
Our engine development team is continuing to develop our V-twin platform, as well as the group here in the USA is exploring new market segments for expanded, higher horsepower options.
While we couldn't get much out of them on what's in store for bigger power in the future, we were very encouraged to see that CFMOTO is on the gas in all categories, bringing new products that are very high value to market, and there's no signs of them slowing up anytime in the future.
Dirt Tracks is sponsored by Hercules Tire. Ride on our strength.
For the past year, Can-Am has had to sit back and watch as their main competitor claimed all 3 titles of biggest, baddest, and most powerful. Now though, that's all changed. 2024 Maverick R is not just the biggest, baddest, and most powerful sports side-by-side in the industry, it also showcases a number of interesting features and technologies. But before we get into the finer details of how the Maverick R works, let's take a look at some of the important specs. Under the hood, you're going to find an all-new 999cc 3-cylinder engine. But before you go thinking that this is just a beefed-up version of the old Maverick's Ace architecture 3-cylinder, you need to understand, it's not. This new engine has been built from the ground up to be incredibly durable and more than capable of handling all 240 turbocharged horsepower it's currently producing. According to Can-Am engineers, literally every part is bigger and stronger than the old 3-cylinder. Also completely different is one of the most interesting features of the Maverick R, and that's its 7-speed DCT transmission. The engine has been specifically designed for this transmission and vice versa. This is the first gear-on-gear transmission from Can-Am, but obviously it's not the first in the industry. The real difference here is that Can-Am opted for a 7-speed. Power is transferred to the wheels via a shiftable 4x4 system that includes 4 modes: 2x4, 4x4 trail, 4x4 trail active, and 4x4 lock. Each of these systems is controlled electronically, and they all have their own unique feel. The chassis and suspension is all new as well. Overall width is a staggering 77 inches. Double A-arms up front yield 25 inches of travel. Out back, you'll find a 4-link trailing arm setup that yields 26 inches of travel. The strange-looking setup is called the high knuckle design, and it offers a couple of important benefits. First, it reduces the amount of leverage being applied to the arms and links when you side load the bottom portion of the tire. This change in how the load is distributed into the chassis also helps to raise the roll center of the vehicle, which makes it more stable in the corners. It reduces kickback into the steering wheel and helps keep the wheels pointed where you want them, which improves stability and predictability when things get really rough. Finally, let's talk about the interior of the Maverick R. The version I tested is the full gem XRS with smart shocks. It features really comfortable, high-back, well-bolstered seats that are adjustable forward and back and up and down with the use of spacers. The seating position feels slightly more upright than the older Maverick, which is actually good because it offers vastly improved sightlines over the hood. Retractable 4-point harnesses are standard, as is a tilting and telescoping steering wheel with column-mounted gauge. In the center of the dash, you'll find Can-Am's new 10.25-inch display. It controls all aspects of the vehicle, including the gauge itself, GPS mapping, your phone, your music, and all of the Smart Shock XRS model's adjustable features, which can be adjusted from the display, a keypad below the display, or the steering wheel. Adjustable features include the obvious, like the Smart Shocks with Soft, Sport, and Sport Plus. Your throttle modes with Standard, Sport, and Sport Plus, DPS power steering settings with low, medium, and high, and your 4x4 modes. The layout of the keypad is simple and easy to understand, which is more than I can say for the use of not just one, but 2 Sport Plus modes that do totally different things. The transmission is 100% electronically controlled. The shift knob is how you select forward, reverse, or low range. You can also use buttons below the shift knob if you want to. Neutral and park can only be selected with buttons. Shifting into low range can be done at any time, even while you're moving.
DIRT TRAX is sponsored by Princess Auto. Make it work.
Now let's talk about how it actually works, because the truth is that's all that really matters. First, the engine and transmission surprised me a lot. The engine, because of its incredible power, 240 horsepower, is as insane as you expect it to be, especially when it's transferred through a gear-on-gear transmission with very little power loss. Power is incredibly strong down low, but builds almost mind-bendingly fast. The three throttle modes offer very different power characteristics. Standard mode, the power is very linear, and the programming does a great job at filtering out any unwanted throttle inputs as your foot bounces on the pedal while you're running over really rough terrain. When you select Sport mode, you can hear the idle RPM raise slightly. Throttle tipping is more aggressive and the power ramps up quickly. Sport Plus mode, though, is where the magic really happens. Sport Plus features an anti-lag system that pretty much completely eliminates turbo lag altogether. The RPMs at idle raise just slightly higher than the Sport mode, but when you put it in gear, the sound of the engine changes completely and it sounds totally weird. I can't say enough about how well this system works. I've never experienced power like this in any side-by-side ever. All of this power would be useless if it wasn't transferred through a well-tuned transmission, and I'm very pleased to say Can-Am's 7-speed is the best working DCT transmission I've ever tested. You can choose to manually shift using the paddles, or you can let it shift itself in auto mode. I left the transmission in auto mode pretty much all the time and found that unlike other auto shifting transmissions, this one is programmed near perfect. It seems to always be in the right gear. When you step on the throttle, it lets the incredible torque of the engine do the work instead of downshifting. I also found the shifts to be buttery smooth. Even in the sand, with sand tires, the transmission seemed to always be in the right gear. Now the question does need to be asked, is it better than a CVT? And my answer is simply this. There are benefits to both, large and small. For my driving style, I still think I prefer a CVT. However, the Maverick R's DCT left very little to be desired, and I'd be happy to drive it day after day if I owned one. Unfortunately, I find it very difficult to comment on the handling of the Maverick R because the entire time I was testing it was spent in the dunes. The models I tested also had sand tires, not the stock tires, and that changes things quite a bit. Suspension, on the other hand, is something I can confidently comment on. From drops to jumps to long sections of 2-foot deep uneven whoops, I pushed the Maverick R as hard as I could. And if I had to sum up my experience in one word, it would be wow. The tall knuckle suspension provides incredibly stable and predictable big bump handling characteristics, but it didn't seem to matter how fast I went or what line I took. The Maverick R stayed level and gave me no surprises. I was running the toughest whoop section at over 65 miles an hour. Now there are obviously two things at work here. First, the chassis and suspension, which both work amazing. And second is smart shocks. In the soft setting, you could run washboard sand and get very little feedback into the chassis. It simply ate up the bumps. But when the bumps turned into whoops, the suspension would get overworked fast and would start to bottom out. The sport setting was perfect for riding fast on rough trails. It offered a perfect mix of smooth ride, big bump absorption, and anti-bottoming. Sport Plus is definitely what you want to be in for running the whoops fast or for hitting jumps. It soaked up the biggest hits like they weren't even there and provided impressive bottoming resistance. As expected on the washboard bumps though, at slower speeds it felt like you were driving a dump truck. I would love to go into great detail on every one of the Maverick R's features. What I think is most important to get across today though is this. Can-Am approached the Maverick R with a completely blank sheet of paper. It very clearly has strong Can-Am DNA everywhere you look, but the deeper you look and the harder you ride, the more you realize the Maverick R offers a different level of performance in every category performance is measured. I think it's pretty safe to say Can-Am has won back all the titles of biggest, baddest, and most powerful. Simply put, there's just nothing out there like it.
Dirt Tracks has been sponsored by Kawasaki. Let the good times roll. MBRP Performance Exhaust, built for the victory lap. And by Mad Ramps. Leave the trailer and go.
The introduction of the Wolverine a few years ago showed us a few things. Number one, that Yamaha now had an 850 twin in its lineup. But number two, that Yamaha was serious about remaining competitive in the side-by-side category. Further evidenced by the introduction of the RMAX 1000. If you've watched this show, you know we love the RMAX. We've covered this machine extensively, and even with a few gripes, it's still one of our favorite sport utility side-by-sides on the market. Like we're seeing more and more these days, as these machines advance, prices seem to be creeping higher and higher. And make no mistake, there's a buyer for everything that's being produced these days, but the majority of us would rather spend that money on a pickup truck than spend it on an off-road vehicle that's priced the same. Yamaha recognized an opportunity to advance the Wolverine line and serve the market with a budget-conscious vehicle that doesn't sacrifice performance. And that's where we get the Wolverine X2 1000 SE. Right away, we started hearing comments like, oh, I bet it's just a dumbed-down 1000 and you'll have to buy the R-Max if you want the same performance. And I'm telling you straight up, that is not true. This machine uses the same 999cc twin mated to Yamaha's legendary Ultramatic CVT featuring a 10-year belt warranty, just like the R-Max. In fact, it also uses the same cab design as the R-Max, but that's not to say these two machines are exactly the same. The biggest cost savings for this machine include the use of SAC ZF adjustable piggybacks instead of Fox QS3s, having active D mode offered as an option and not standard, 28-inch tires instead of 30s, and some bodywork differences, particularly in the hood and over the fenders. In Canada and the US, that means more than a $6,000 price difference. With all that extra money in your jeans, you've got lots left over for gas or aftermarket accessories or life. Like I said, the X2 uses the same 999cc twin found in the R-Max mated to Yamaha's legendary Ultramatic CVT, and this engine rocks. At the first press of the throttle, you immediately notice that difference in power. As it climbs through mid-range, shifting is smooth and linear as it reaches top end. The limiter kicked in about 110, 111 kilometers an hour, which is nearly 70 miles an hour. That's decent. But where this unit shines is on tight, twisty trails and over gnarly terrain. I like to find the rockiest, rooted up, rutted out sections of trail when I'm testing out a side-by-side, and the X2 performed like a champ. Yamaha's single-mode EPS is excellent, and as I made my way through the trails, I barely felt any feedback up through the steering wheel. I also have to give credit to the suspension, which boasts 13.3 inches of travel up front and 15.5 out back. The SAC ZF piggybacks may not be the premium QS3s found on the R-Max, but they are an excellent shock. I took the time to dial in the 24-position clickers to the optimal level for my type of riding, and I have to tell you, with the combination of this suspension and EPS, I practically could have sipped a cup of hot coffee with the lid off while I was driving and wouldn't have spilled a drop. The Wolverine X2 1000 SE is equipped with 28-inch Maxxis Bighorn tires wrapped around gorgeous-looking 14-inch wheels, and are a 10-inch wide square setup. Sway bars at all four corners do an excellent job at keeping the X2 level while blasting through the corners, and handling in tighter sections of trails was exceptional. Plus, if you get yourself into trouble, the X2 is also equipped with a Warn VRX 4,500 pound winch from the factory. As mentioned earlier, the cab system is the same as the R-Max. Seats are comfortable, clearance over the hood is outstanding, the cab also features tilt steering, soft touch points to reduce bruises, a center-mounted gauge cluster, which is bright and easy to read, a deep glove box, center-mounted console storage, and a few spots here for your M&Ms and your jelly beans. There's also this massive rear view mirror that provides an excellent view out back, and to top it off literally, a roof is included standard, as it should be. The doors on the X2 are premium. They're finished on the inside and there's gorgeous paint and graphics on the outside. They latch tight and the door handles work great. Furthermore, this shoulder bolster offers additional protection and keeps you planted while cornering. Okay, let's get serious for a sec. It's okay, bring it in. Good? Yamaha, we love you. You make excellent engines. You have the best belt warranty in the industry, and your off-road vehicles are renowned for quality. But what we really want are taller doors. I feel like if this area here was leveled out to this area here, not only would it look aesthetically pleasing, it would provide additional protection to the driver and passenger so their arms remain securely inside the cab. Please, we just want taller doors. The X2 is built for fun, but it can handle work duties as well. Featuring a 2,000-pound towing capacity, two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, and diff lock activated by this little dial at the left of the steering wheel, a smooth latching tailgate, and a dumping cargo bed, which also features standard tie-down points and a 600-pound capacity. One feature from the R-Max that's absent on the X2 is active D mode, which allows you to toggle between trail, sport, and crawl modes at the flick of a switch. Here's the interesting thing though, everything is fully programmed into the vehicle and fully wired for the D mode switch, which is available from Yamaha for only around $100 US. That's a pretty sweet deal, and once the switch is installed, D mode is activated. Without the switch, the vehicle just stays in trail mode, which is fine, and that's what we tested our machine in the whole time. Like I said, for the majority of us, price plays a huge part in the decision-making process. And although the X2 1000 is a bargain compared to its bigger brother, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but I'm probably still paying a premium over other brands. And I'm telling you, that is not the case. When comparing base model 1000s shoulder to shoulder, the difference in price is negligible. And if you compare features at this trim level, the Yamaha is clearly the better value and worth taking a closer look at if you're considering buying a sport utility side-by-side. Yamaha's focus for the Wolverine X2 1000 was to deliver comfort, capability, and confidence to the driver, and this machine meets every single one of those objectives. I have to admit, I'm so impressed with the X2 1000, I might just order one for myself.